Reserve. The root of all our evil, it begins with the Federal Reserve. Hey, yeah, well, let's go back in time when everybody was so proud of America.
I'm Tommy Salmons. This is Year Zero. Today, Nick Ashley joins me once again. Nick was the host of the Individualist podcast, and he is a member of the Slurp Gang podcast. You've heard him on the show before, and you've probably seen his Twitter account because he's pretty active and hilarious on Twitter. So I wanted to have Nick on, and we planned on talking mainly about the weaponization of individualism and how the left has kind of inserted their narrative into the ideas of individualism, which has kind of isolated people from tribes and made it much easier for the government to become tyrannical. But before we got into that, we talked about the COVID tyranny and all the things that are happening COVID related that we've seen over the last year and how crazy it's been. So I think you're going to enjoy this, but I wanted to tell all of you before we get into the show, I hope y'all all had a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And I appreciate everyone that's reached out to me. I think I have responded to everyone and told everyone Happy New Year and Merry Christmas. But if I haven't, it isn't because I didn't want to. I was bombarded with a lot of messages, and I really do appreciate y'all's support and you're not unnoticed. I plan on doing a lot of things for y'all this year, and hopefully we can grow and do some really cool things together. As always, RyanBunting.com. For all of your graphic design needs, go to RyanBunting.com. Ryan Bunting is a great anarcho-capitalist, and he's a great libertarian. He's also a great graphic designer. He designed my podcast logo, as you see, plastered all over the place. So go to RyanBunting.com for all of your graphic design needs. And we'll be updating the information for Ryan Bunting because he will be doing some more interesting outreach and freelance work here in the future. So we'll be updating all of that. So stay tuned and be on the lookout for what Ryan Bunting's going to be doing this year. And as you hear, my wife is complaining in the background because, well, it's cold outside and the door was open because the dogs, yes, it's bloody freezing. Welcome to the introduction, Beatrix. Thank you, Tom Burton, for the music. I appreciate it. And if you haven't been going to the Libertarian Institute, go to libertarianinstitute.org and check out all the great writers and podcasters we got over there. There's always great information coming out at the Libertarian Institute, and I'm always appreciative and thankful to be working with the guys over there. Scott is one of the best people I know. Patrick McFarlane, Keith Knight they're both just brilliant, great guys. And we're really doing something special over at the Libertarian Institute. So come on over to libertarianinstitute.org and get ready for your 2022 tax write-offs when you donate to the libertarianinstitute.org/donate. So that's always nice. But this has been a long introduction. Things have happened in it that have never happened in an introduction before, but enjoy the show. All right, I am here with Nick Ashley. It's been a while since we talked. What's going on, brother?
Tommy, what's up, man? Thank you very much for having me again. I'm happy to be here, and I'm doing great, brother.
Yeah, well, a lot's happened since the last time we talked. You moved, so.
Yep.
All right, so where did you move from? Were you in Michigan?
Georgia.
Georgia. I don't know why I thought Michigan. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. It was colder than where I'm at, so
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in the Savannah area, like way on the East Coast.
That's right. That's right.
And
Okay.
we just recently moved back to Louisiana, where my wife and I are both from. Just we're not from here, but we're only an hour away from where we both grew up, where all our families are and everything. So
Now
right by
you're
Baton Rouge, where we are.
yeah, you're near Baton Rouge.
Yep,
Yeah.
right across the river from it.
Okay. Yeah. I know pretty much where you're at. I've stayed in a hotel over there before.
Mhm.
First time I ever recorded with Jose, actually, I was in a hotel right across the river from Baton Rouge.
Huh.
So,
Ain't many,
oh,
ain't many of them out there.
yeah. well,
Not on
do
this
you,
side anyway.
yeah, Port Allen, right? If you
That's
take
not
the-
where we are. We're south of there, but yeah, that Port Allen is directly west of like the city of Baton Rouge.
Yeah, so
We're
you
south
know where
of that. Yeah.
you know where the what is it? It's a Love's. When you're going
Yep.
into Baton Rouge, there's a Love's on your right hand side.
Mhm.
On the left hand side, there's a truck stop, and there's a hotel right next door to the truck stop. So I parked because my AC was out, so I parked my truck in the truck stop, and I slept in the hotel room. So
I think I know what you're talking about out there. Yeah.
real trashy fucking place.
Yeah, that's kind. I wasn't gonna say that, but yeah, there ain't no hotels on this side of the river that are any worth a damn, really.
Yeah, but yeah. So how's the move been?
Oh, we're good. We're settled in and everything. We're. I mean, I don't know if you're ever really finished unpacking, because I don't even know if we were ever finished unpacking whenever we moved in Georgia, when we
Right.
moved to Georgia. But we still have 1 or 2 boxes left and really we should probably just throw them away, because we haven't missed any of the shit that's in there. So we could probably get rid of them, or if it's closed, give it to Goodwill or whatever. But we're pretty much all settled in. We do have to get rid of a thing. We had a guest bedroom. We went from 4 bedrooms to 3. So we had a guest bed in one of the bedrooms, but we don't have room for that no more. So we're gonna have to send that home to my parents' place or something, have them put it in their attic, or we put it in our attic. I don't know. We have an attic, so maybe we should just do that. I don't know why I'm talking about sending it with my parents, but that's usually the go-to move, because they had so much more space than we did. But now we could do that.
Yeah. So was the move COVID related? Or were y'all just always thinking about it?
We wanted to move back home at some point in the speaking in terms of being while we were in Georgia, we had always thought about, we were going to be moving back home at some point, because the company that my wife works for, she's a chemical engineer. They had a plant that her resume got found by some people out in Georgia, like I said, back in the Savannah area. And there's a plant over here if you're familiar with Baton Rouge and the area, anybody listening, if you're not familiar with it, all up and down the Mississippi River is nothing but chemical plants for as far as you can see. So she works at one of those. So that's the same company that she worked for back in Georgia, but it's a lot easier for us to be back home next to all the family. That way we don't have to drive 12 hours to come visit for holidays. And I mean, we've missed holidays. We missed Christmas. We've missed Thanksgivings and birthdays and all that. We don't have to do that anymore. So it's just easier being back with the family. And I'm not breaking news here, y'all. Everybody who follows me knows this. Joni is pregnant. My wife is pregnant. We're going to be having a kid next year. And we wanted to move back home near all the family before we did that, because that just makes things a lot easier when you have family nearby. That way they don't have to miss anything. And you also have that support system for people to be able to help you out, grandparents and other family members and all that. Yeah. So that was always part of the plan, moving back.
Well, yeah. Well, and congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm really happy for you. There's nothing like being a father. That you're gonna, it's gonna drive you fucking insane, but you're gonna love it. So, yeah, it's one of those things where, are y'all gonna find out the sex of the child, or are y'all gonna wait?
Yeah, we're gonna do that so we don't buy a bunch of stuff, because actually Joni, she was saying, like, only unisex stuff is green, gray, and just ugly colors. So
Yeah,
we want to be able
yellow
to,
and
yeah, we want to be able to buy the classic blue or pink stuff for the baby
Right,
before.
yeah.
So I think that makes it a lot easier to. But we're not going to do no gender reveal or none of that nonsense. We're not really into that. And I'm not going to be like a lot of people that have kids. No, this isn't a insult towards them who do this, but we're not going to be people that, and I'm way more online than she is, but we're not going to be the couple that puts our kid everywhere on social media. So every now and then you'll see him or her, but it's not going to be one of these things where we're posting him or her all over the place just because I just don't want my kid to, I don't want people to see that, you know?
Yeah, I just have a feeling. I know a lot of who your friends are, and I have a feeling that as soon as you say, "Oh, it's a boy," you're going to get a bunch of pink shit.
Probably, but that's all right. We have so many kids in the family from other, from Joni's side of the family and other people that we're going to be getting. I mean, you know what it's like having a kid. Everybody wants to give you hand-me-downs. I got a stroller you can have. I got a car seat. I have a bassinet. I got a crib. Because babies are so quick. You only need things for a couple of months at a time. So people buy something and they don't need it in 6 months down the road. So everybody's got something they can give away pretty much that's had a kid in the past 10 years.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you'll find out just how many diapers you need.
Oh God, I had a niece. I have a niece who's I'm not gonna say her age, but I remember her being that little, being a baby, and just, oh my goodness, you can't believe it.
Yeah. No. Anytime any of my friends have a child, I buy them diapers. I'm like, that's what you need. Like,
Yep.
I don't care what you think you need. This is what you need.
Yeah. Clothes ain't shit.
Yeah. Those clothes will last you like 3 months. You know, like, no, you need diapers.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm not gonna. I will. I don't think I'm gonna say the names we picked out yet. I've told friends. I'll tell you off the air because I don't want to blast stuff out like that, especially not now without talking to Joni about this stuff first. But we did pick a name for whether it's a boy or a girl. And we actually, funny thing is, we both had a feeling we were going to be having twins. We actually had the first ultrasound just recently, and I got to see the baby's heartbeat, which was really cool. Really like cool. Milestone kind of moment for both of us as being parents officially, sort of, but it's only one. But we have twins on both sides of I have twins on my mom's side of the family, has at least 2 sets of twins. And my Joni side of the family, they have a set of twins in 3 or 4 generations back to back. So we were like, we might have twins. So let's just prepare.
You might have gotten one of each.
there's only one. So that's all I'll say about that in particular for now. We'll update later.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, that's really good for y'all, man. That's really good. And I'm glad y'all got close to the family. Have you noticed a difference in the COVID response, leaving Georgia and being back in Louisiana?
Yeah. For one, there was a mask mandate in Louisiana whenever we did move back. They lifted it in like October, somewhere around that, a couple of months ago. But in Georgia, there wasn't one. Georgia is actually low key one of the better states to have been in the past, other than Atlanta, which every major city is like this for the most part, except for if you're in some place like, I don't know, Miami or someplace in Florida, or I guess I don't know how it is for you over out in Texas, but I'm sure there was some
nowhere near a big city, so I have no.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure there was
I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some cities that were good, but for the most part, cities are just, that's how they are. They're progressive and all. So, right. But other than Atlanta, Georgia was fine. Even Savannah was fine. And that's not a big city, but it's a city, and it was fine. Meanwhile, over here in Louisiana, Baton Rouge is about a similar size to Savannah, similar population and area and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, there were mask mandates. The governor had implemented them, but then undid them. And now I actually looked this up recently because Joni's work just implemented a mask policy again. And I think it's their own thing because some of the employees were getting it just from being with family over the holidays. That's just, but I looked it up and saw if maybe they were doing it, because at first they were just going by whatever was being mandated. They were like, all right, we got to do it, whatever. But this one looks like they're just doing it because a lot of employees are getting it. Now, her and I both already had it, so I'm not worried about none of us catching it. Plus, this newest mutation doesn't it. I mean, the number one symptom is runny nose and a sore throat and sneezing. Like it's just a cold.
Headache,
yeah. I mean, this one, people always talked about the COVID being a spicy flu or whatever. This is like literally a spicy cold. I mean, only one person in America, as far as last time I checked, one person in the country had died from it. One person in the UK died from it. So that it really is becoming, that's how viruses work. And I'm not the first person to say this, so I'm not going to harp on the point that everybody else is probably beaten into the ground if you listen to podcasts. But I'm not worried about it from a health perspective or anything like that. I never really was. But I did look into seeing what the mandates were, just because since her work had implemented a mask thing, but nothing right now. And once they lifted the mandate, everybody, I mean, all the science came off the doors and everything. Most of the people were just going along with what the governor was saying to do. Because what choice do you have at a certain point? I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I know with my company, I work retail, so if I'm at the store, I'm supposed to wear a mask, and that just started a couple of weeks ago. Ugh. And the reason it started was because the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals overrode the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision to get rid of the OSHA mandate. So her company may be responding to that. That might be what they're doing, because that's what my company's doing. Because they're back talking about either the mandatory vaccine or the testing weekly, and come January. Now I know the Supreme Court, because a lot of trucking companies have said no, we're not doing that, and because truck drivers are just individualists by nature, like we just want to be left alone and do our shit. So a lot of trucking companies throughout the United States have pretty much made it clear that that's not going to happen. And so they've, a lot of these trucking industries and unions have filed lawsuit, and it's supposed to be viewed by the Supreme Court on January 7th in a special session. So I guess we'll see what happens with all this shit.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that some Supreme Court ruling, they had a really bad Supreme Court ruling recently where they voted against. I mean, I know I'm using the wrong terminology, but in effect, they voted against upholding religious exemptions. They voted
that was for the state of New York.
Oh, that was what it was?
Yeah, see, I'm wondering if they're going to view the state and the federal laws differently.
That did make it up to the Supreme Court, though, correct?
That's what I heard, yes.
Yeah, because that was what it was shocking to me, because I was of the opinion that Trump's biggest, if you could call it a victory, but the biggest thing that came from his administration, his 4 years, was appointing 3 justices, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and the lady Barrett, right?
Tony Barrett, yeah.
So I was like,
unfortunately, the only one of those worth of shit is Gorsuch.
Yeah.
So
he's actually pretty solid, but the other two have been really squishy, which is, I'm not shocked because they're politicians. That's what they are. But still, the only thing that people were holding out hope for, that were at least somewhat skeptical, it's gone now,
Right. I have some friends that are attorneys, like in the Dallas area. And they all told me, like, the only one of these that are worth a damn is Gorsuch. I don't know why people are going berserk over the Kavanaugh and the Coney Barrett nominees. So yeah. I kind of expected that Gorsuch was going to be the only one that was going to come down on, like, our side, so, it's just kind of, none of it shocks me. But yeah, they upheld the state law. And with a very strict reading of the 9th and 10th Amendment, the states have the rights to do it, right, constitutionally. But I want to see what they're going to say about the federal, especially with it being a bureaucratic dictate and Congress has voted on it. The Senate voted on it and said, no, we shouldn't do it. Obviously, Biden's just going to veto it. But so I kind of want to see what the Supreme Court has to say about the federal mandate. I made a joke today on Twitter saying, I wonder if like the ACA, if they're going to treat it like a tax, given that the government is partial owner of the mRNA patent. You know, they're partnered.
Is that true?
Yeah, they're partnered with Moderna. And,
I didn't know that part about it. I knew there was all, you know, we know how big pharma is, being, you know, libertarians or whatever the hell we are, but I didn't know that part about the patent. That's insane.
Yeah. So given that, and anybody, I had Justin O'Donnell on, probably at the beginning. I guess it was the beginning of this year. This year feels so fucking long.
Me too. Yeah, I feel you. I can't believe it's only been a year since last December. Holy
yes. But yeah, I had Justin O'Donnell on. I think it was towards the beginning of 2021, and he actually said that on the show, and I was like, really? That's a thing? And he's like, yeah, look it up. And I remember looked it up, and then what was it, in November? I think it was, Glenn Beck did a really big, like, 2-hour episode on the vaccines and the virus and this, that, and the other. And he mentioned it again. And I was like, oh shit, I remember hearing that. And I looked it up again. So yes, the federal government is partial owner of the patent of mRNA vaccinations, which is kind of funny, because the one vaccination that got kicked out because a few people had some blood clots wasn't mRNA.
It was Johnson and Johnson.
Johnson was not mRNA. But no matter how many problems they have with the Pfizer vaccine or the Moderna vaccine, they just kind of let it roll by. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of strange.
That makes a lot more sense now, really. I mean, it does connect a couple of dots that I wasn't really seeing before, that they do have a stake in that mRNA patent. That's really, really fucked up. Jesus Christ. But yeah, it is. I mean, I wonder how much more people are gonna, because I'm not gonna say what I'm going to do if I, you know, we all know what options there are to avoid getting it. We know, I don't have to say it. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I'll resort to we all know people who know people. Somebody can get you hooked up with a, you know what, or another, you know what. Yeah, I don't have to say it, but and I don't want to say it because I don't want to get, I don't want to get you flagged or something.
I can do like I did when I had Aaron on and just start beeping you for no reason. And
people would assume.
Yeah, they just assume you're saying things.
So I'll do what I got to do if necessary, but I'm curious as to how far people are going to let themselves get pushed, because now it's becoming more and more clear. And even the CDC, they went from you won't catch it to you won't transmit it and your symptoms will be, less severe. And now it's just you'll catch it and you could transmit it, but your symptoms will be less severe. I'm wondering when that last thing is going to get kicked off, from the list, because I haven't looked at any numbers. First of all, like I just said earlier, that Omicron thing, the Omicron mutation, and I hate the word variant now, because they're the variant. I really don't like it. The strain. I would love to pick another word right now, but Omicron is just a cold but worse. My parents had it recently, and I'm pretty sure they had the Omicron. But the thing about it is, and I keep on going on these different little tangents, but it's kind of for a reason, is because there's so much bullshit, right? Joni and I both had it, and it was less severe than the common cold when we had it back in December of last year, a year ago, in 2020. And it was, weirdly enough, COVID ruined our Christmas plans that year, and they ruined them this year because my parents had it. But it was, every time I get sick, dude, I get wiped out. I'm achy. My neck hurts. My back hurts. I'm achy all over the place.
Yeah, like flu type shit.
Yeah, I get a terrible sore throat. I can't breathe through my nose. COVID wasn't shit for either one of us. The worst thing about it was that her taste was screwed up for a long time, and even months after the fact, her taste was still screwed up. Like
my dad got fucked up. Like, I don't know if I told you about that, but my dad got fucked up really bad. but he never had. It didn't hit him like a virus, like respiratory. It was all digestive. It was all in his stomach, and so he was vomiting and shitting, like for like almost a month, dude. Like
Damn.
he lost like 40 pounds in like a month.
So like a really severe flu.
Yeah, like
It
stomach
oh,
flu.
man. Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine, she had it, and she just said she had like mild sinus symptoms, but diarrhea. I
Yeah.
didn't have that. Johnny didn't have that. It was just mild, like a mild chest cold is what we had. But
Yeah.
it was funny because I talked about this on Timeline Earth, and Aaron was saying like, this is why I thought it was a bioweapon. He was like, every day I experienced a different symptom at its peak. It's like, this is not natural. This is not normal. Like, I mean, it's true. Like, something I feel like has been lost in the whole conversation about the virus and the vaccine is that they kind of admitted that they've made it. They created it. Whether or not some people think whenever you create a virus, they didn't sit there in a lab and literally take each thing from, different viri and put them together. They took I don't know how it works, but that gain of function where they make viruses more severe, they do that shit. It's real. And it escaped from a lab.
From what I can gather, what they do is they take a piece of human cell membrane and they put it in a rat. Okay.
Oh.
And then they start manipulating the virus and taking pieces out and putting pieces in and keep trying to get that rat infected in that human cell membrane. And then once they figure out like what it is that causes that human cell membrane to get infected, then they start working in reverse trying to figure out a cure for it. Right?
Yeah, right.
So it seems like in Glenn Beck, like I said, in that special he did, he talked about this. It seems like what they were doing is they were experimenting with these particular bats that have this really strange virus that they carry around with them. And that they were experimenting with these rats that they had kind of turned into these weird fucking human hybrids with like human lungs. Basically, they had humanized the lungs of these rats, and they were trying to infect these lungs, and they were trying to figure out how to prevent a pandemic by creating a vaccine beforehand or a treatment method beforehand, and it escaped. Well, the funny thing is that when they took the virus that escaped the lab and infected, allegedly, affected the population, when they took that virus and tried to re-inject it into the bats completely rejected it. It did nothing to the bats. So it's like, okay, like I don't even know what the hell they did to this thing, but they made a mutant. There's a mutant. It's a mutant somewhere out there.
I mean, I think the problem is whenever you fuck with nature will fuck with you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I obviously there's trade-offs, there's pros and cons to doing literally anything. I just have to wonder if it's worth it, if the risk is this, if it's worth it to now. Again, I know the virus ain't that bad, but let's steel man the entire thing. Let's say COVID is a plague, it's a pandemic, and it's as bad as the corporate press and the media would have you believe it is. Some motherfuckers think it kills like half of the people that it affects. So let's just go as if we're that blue pilled, right? Even if that is the case, so crap, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, if that is indeed the case, and we have this horrible virus that's killing so many people, is that possibility a worthy trade-off of, figuring out if maybe possibly there could be a virus in the future that could kill a lot of people? That way we can make a vaccine for it. That's all the reason that they do that, is to try to preemptively, anticipate viruses or more accelerated illnesses. That way they can create treatments and vaccines for them.
Right.
I don't know how many vaccines they've been able to get the jump start on, I don't know. As far as major pandemics are concerned, I don't think that's ever happened. Anytime there's been a major pandemic, there's never been a situation where they're like, thanks to our, our preliminary work in what's it called, gain of function research, we have figured out a cure or a vaccine or a treatment 5 years quicker than we otherwise would have. Have we not done that? I've never heard of that.
They would brag about it. They would make sure you knew.
Dude, I've never heard of that happening ever. I mean, the major pandemics of the world were what, like Spanish flu, which clearly that was in the 1910s. That wasn't.
Yeah, it was like what, 1917 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. 1917, 18, 19, and then it burned out.
Yeah,
which killed a lot of people. That was a legit.
Yeah, it killed.
That's what a pandemic looks like.
Yeah,
that's what a pandemic looks like. But smallpox. But they figured out these things on the fly. Polio, they figured out on the fly. Jonas Salk, the guy that created the polio vaccine, he figured that out by fucking with his kitchen stove and sink and stuff. He just did that in his own house. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's ever been a thing where they have preemptively figured out, hey, we could. Now, I guess your previous experience in working with vaccines and being able to deactivate viruses, which is what a real vaccine is, not this mRNA stuff, but being able to figure out, okay, we could do this, that, and the other to deactivate this virus, and it'll still give you the antibodies when you have it in you. Like the flu shot, for example. They come up with a new flu shot every year because there's a new strain of the flu every year. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's kind of intuitive to say that they can know. They've kind of got the groundwork laid for 80% of that vaccine. So they only need to add on to that last 20. That's where the work is done. You get what I mean?
Well, I've never heard that that worked really well up until I think it was like 2000 and God, man, I'm going to get the year wrong. I know I am, but there was a year not that
pretty
long
recently.
Ago. Yeah, it was pretty recent where all of a sudden, like everybody that got the flu vaccine was like deathly ill. They were going to the fucking hospital because they were what they were trying to do is they were trying to guess how it was going to mutate for the next year. So when the next year came out, they had the vaccine that they had released, I think it was in 2017, but it may not have been that. It may have been longer ago than that, but it wasn't that long ago. But so they made the wrong vaccine and it actually made it worse. And so,
shit.
Yeah, so they hypothesized wrong that time. And the thing is, I mean, I remember in the 90s, I had a buddy of mine whose brother was totally fried. And me and this dude were really good friends. We were in high school together. But his brother was fried because he was in college, and the way he was paying for college was going through a medical experiments. And so and you would look in like the newspaper and you would see these ads for medical experimentation.
Dude, Steve-O did that.
Yeah, they'd pay you like $1,000 for, a week of your time or something like that. Well, now people are volunteering to be medical experiments. And I'm just like, this is not going to end well, man. Like this is not. And Columbia University just released a research, a study the other day that said, if you want to get an accurate depiction of the harm of the vaccine, you have to multiply the deaths in the vaccine injuries by 20.
The VAERS or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So you would take 20,000 deaths. Well, this thing is 23,000 deaths.
Mm-hmm.
Multiply that by 20. That's 400,000 people since the vaccines come out. So you're telling me the vaccine is more deadly than the virus, and then it's like 1 million people have like suffered. And these are only people that have reported it. That's why they're saying, like, multiply it by 20, because like I know people like that I know women that have ended up with permanent blood clots after getting the vaccine, or ended up in the hospital for like severe bladder infections, or stopped having their period, and things like, it's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. I was going to bring that up, is that I have a buddy his girlfriend had the shot. Her parents made her get it. She's still living at home, I'm assuming, that's how this works. And her period was late immediately. Fucked up her cycle. I was like, look, you can call me what you want. You generally speaking, like anybody, whoever the hell, anti-vax, whatever. I don't care. All that aside, don't you think it's weird that you get a shot and it fucks up your menstrual cycle? And then look, you can look this up. They set aside over $1 million to study the effect of the vaccine on women's menstrual cycles. I mean, if you look up COVID, I'll look it up right now. COVID vaccine, 1.6 million menstrual cycle. And fucking articles will come up even on Google. NIH funds studies to assess potential effects of the COVID-19 vaccination on menstruation from the NIH website. It's right there. They tell you that it's happening. It's like, that's all that they're admitting to. They're saying, yeah, it's messing up women's periods, or we may think it may be messing up women's menstrual cycles. That's what they're admitting to. You know, goddamn well, it's worse than,
Yeah,
it's
but what
worse.
kind of permanent damage is that doing? Like, I understand, like, women don't like their period. I get it. I'm sympathetic to that idea. And I mean, I know women that have said, thankfully, I stopped having a period after I got the vaccine. But it's like, okay, yeah, but
Yeah, you probably stop having your period when you get ovarian cancer too. Like,
yeah, like what is the permanent damage that is occurring because of this? What is it doing to you? This is not normal.
yeah,
Right? You know, and so just that jacking around with people's, genes and their DNA, that it makes me so nervous. I'm just like, you're not injecting me with anything. And every time you turn around, there's a new booster. Now Israel's saying there's like 4.
They're
like,
up to their 4th shot now.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like, so when's this going to end? I saw a meme the other day. It made me laugh. It said, the vaccinated and unvaccinated have in common, neither of them are fully vaccinated. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's it completely, So
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, and another thing we were talking, just to go back a little bit on the women's cycles. It's like, it could stop your period, but that's not what that's completely unrelated to what the thing is for. It's to stop you from getting a respiratory infection. It's to stop you from getting a respiratory virus, and it's messing with your ovaries and uterus. Look, man, I don't even know. Let's just say it was an honest mistake. I don't care if it was. I'm not one of these people that thinks that the virus is, or not the virus. I'm sorry, that the vaccine is purposefully malicious. I think that it's just these big pharma companies that are cashing in on this cash grab with the state. I mean, if the mRNA is part of or if the MRNA patent is half the state, I mean, we know how they fuck things up. It's just what it is.
Yeah, I compare it to the ACA. Like, that's how I compare it. It's forcing the American people to subsidize a corporation.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is I don't know that it's necessarily malicious. This is just companies trying to make money, and they put out a shitty product. That's probably what happened. I'm fine with accepting that it's not malicious, and it's just these big pharma CEOs pushing a shitty product. I accept that. That doesn't mean that the product is that doesn't take anything away from them. That doesn't mean they're any less evil for it. Maybe a little bit less evil, right? Maybe a little. If they knowingly put out something that they're like, yeah, we're gonna kill people, then that makes them more evil. But it's still, this isn't to give them any leeway or to give them any slack or anything like that. It's just me saying, I know how big pharma works. And
like, no, you're looking at this the wrong way. The vaccine is so effective, it can cork a twat.
Holy shit.
That's some mastery.
That's like 5D chess.
That's alchemy.
Call I don't even know the CEO of Pfizer's name. Just call him King Midas. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's just weird though. And what I was saying earlier is I do wonder how much longer people are gonna just let it keep on going, because honestly, it hasn't affected our life in particular. It hasn't affected our finances. It hasn't affected anything about the way we live.
Right.
But it has a lot of people that I know and a lot of people that I care about. And they're not. I mean, everybody has to do what they can to get by. You can't. I do sympathize with people who get the shot because they're going to get fired if they don't. Like, I'm not I'm not one of these people that is so adamant that you can't do it, otherwise you're a statist, whatever. I'm not really on that hard of I understand people. I feel like they're more of a victim than they are a willing participant, or what's the word? I'm trying to think of a word. It escaped me, but I think
Yeah,
they're
no,
more of a victim than anything.
I said the other day, I've gotten to the point where I'm not mad at these people anymore. I just feel bad for them.
Yeah, and I do, but there's a give and take there, because there are some people that could probably get by without getting it, that do get it, because you never know when they're going to let up. I've seen people, Joshua Smith's company, they were saying we're going to implement the mandate, and then all of a sudden they didn't. They said we're not going to. So I mean, maybe just try to hold out. You don't have to do it, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, and I mean, this is pretty much public knowledge, so I don't think my mom will care if I say this, but my mom lost a 6-figure a year job, you know, because she was like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're, my dad was sick for over a month. My mom was nursing him, never tested positive. She's like, I'm like basically immune to this shit. Like, I don't even know what it is. Like, it doesn't even touch me, you know? Like, so yeah, it's a really strange thing. And, you know, you were saying there is that Minkin quote, you know, people like choose safety over liberty, but there is kind of a white pill here, because if you look at where people are leaving, they're leaving the most quote unquote secure locations. You know, they're leaving California and New York by droves, and they're going to places like Florida and Texas. And so it's kind of like, okay, maybe Minkin wasn't completely right. Maybe he missed part of it. Maybe he missed a little bit of the story.
I think he's right. It's just that at what point is that safety? You know what I mean? Especially considering there's a lot of other factors other than just the COVID restrictions that are going into this. I mean, the crime in San Francisco, the fact that people can have their business robbed of almost $1,000 of merchandise without them getting so much as they get a misdemeanor crime. Like, and the whole, we're not rehashing the unleash the cop shit, that argument that was on Twitter like a couple of weeks ago. That's not what I'm doing here. What I'm saying is, people look at what's going on and they say this city is a shithole because of this, that, and the other happening. Smash and grab looters that don't get charged with anything. All the average person sees it and they say, okay, that's bad. The average person looks at that and says, well, why aren't the cops doing their job? We know why. We get it. We understand that, but the average normie doesn't. So yeah, of course they're going to lead to some place where it looks the grass is greener in this situation. So I don't know, man. It is, and to go, if it was just the coronavirus things, the COVID restrictions, I do think that at a certain point, people would prefer their liberty over safety. If the safety, like I said, I don't even know if you can consider it safety anymore, because it's just so absurd. It's just so obviously over the top and unnecessary. You know what I mean?
Well, right. And you and I were talking about this beforehand. Okay. So the other day, I had a guy with me. I was delivering the interior doors and trim for a house. And so, that's all carry in, hand unload inside the house. I had a guy with me helping me, and he's actually a supervisor where I work. And, he was asking me about it. He's a normie, man. He doesn't keep up with the news. He's just a normal guy. Like, I just want to make my money and go home and drink beer and like whatever. I don't give a fuck about all this shit. And he's like, man, he goes, this is all bullshit. This is all bullshit. And he goes, ever since this started, I just feel so tired. I'm just so tired. I just can't take it anymore. And it's like, people are fed up. They're just like, all right, get over it already. We kind of know what we're dealing with here at this point. If you haven't figured out what we're dealing with here, you're not going to figure it out. Yeah. And so people are a little bit fucking fed up. And this kind of went into what I was saying earlier, is like, I was telling him, and I was like, yeah, it's like people like you feel alone you have a desire to fight against the tyranny, but you feel so alone because the idea of individualism, American individualism, liberal individualism, whatever you want to call it, has been weaponized. And you've intermingled like this whole progressive culture, whether you want to call it critical theory or postmodernism, whatever you want to call it. It's been kind of intermingled with the culture and kind of devastated those individual minded people to the point where they don't feel like individuals but feel like hermits now. They feel alone. They feel they're locked out of society anymore.
Yeah, and I think that to start off, I want to say, like, really overall, America's a weird country politically. It's a very odd, like, even American progressivism is weird if you kind of dissect it and break it down. Because I mean, let's just bring the basic thing is to bring it back to Woodrow Wilson, who was left wing politically, but he was very socially fucking. He was incredibly racist. He was an extreme segregationist, even to the point where people that were segregationists at the time were like, okay, buddy, I think you're taking a little too far. Like he had, yeah, I mean, there was, I could remember, the politically incorrect guy, the little thing that Tom Woods and Michael Malice do.
Oh yeah.
Where they talked about how he would have black employees with cages around them to pseudo segregate them from the rest of the white employees, like stuff like that, which was unheard of even in the 1910s. But anyway, so American progressivism has always been this really weird thing where, jump to present day, I just saw somebody saying that cultural wokeism might actually do the planet some good. Like America's progressivism would do the planet some good. So basically saying cultural imperialism, basically what they remember whenever we were pulling out of Afghanistan and people were talking about women's rights, that kind of shit. Like, no, you know damn well we're not worried about women's rights, but you're just using it to further this military industrial complex. So America is very strange politically because there's so many ties. There's so many people that I don't even know how to word it. Now that I'm thinking about it and actually kind of getting into it, it's even harder than I thought it would be to kind of explain what I mean.
You know what? This might help. I was listening, and this isn't something I do regularly. Ashamedly, I probably should listen to Alex Jones more often. But I was listening to his episode from yesterday, and I was just like, because it's like the holidays. There's nothing to listen to, so I was like, I want to listen to. Let me see what Alex Jones is talking about. Well, in the fourth hour, he had Jay Dyer. And Jay Dyer was breaking down Technocracy. And he goes, you have to understand that the fathers of Technocracy, the people that gave birth to the Technocracy that you're dealing with on a daily basis, the neocons, so to speak, were Trotskyists, which a lot of people are aware of. But they were also fascist. And what they had done is they had taken portions of both ideologies and merged them together so that they would work for the technocratic age. So if you're looking at like Zbigniew Brzezinski or, Julian Huxley, these type of people, you're looking at kind of this merger of these two totalitarian regimes. And that's why, like, you'll hear like leftists will be like, oh, they're Nazis, and then you'll hear the people on the right going, oh no, they're communists. And it's like, you're both right. It's almost indistinguishable when it merges into that thing that it's become. And so I think that's why you're kind of finding trouble like describing it. I think it's just like, it's this new thing. It's a progressivism. I did an episode a couple of years ago about progressivism and about how I saw progressivism. And yeah, to me, it was always kind of like this intermingling of communism and fascism. And you're like, what you were trying to do is you were trying to take the things that worked from each one. And you're trying to figure out, okay, if I piece together all the all the stuff that actually worked, and I combine it into a totalitarianism, then you get progressivism. And that there was this like lineage of these things. It was like kind of like a family tree of totalitarianism.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a great example of it is fucking Max Boot. He's like you see him say stuff, you see him say things, whether it's on Twitter or wherever his column. I don't know what he does. I don't follow Max Boot or anything that he does, but I have seen some of his tweets from people quoting him and dunking on him or whatever. And you look at him and you're like, bruh, first of all, exactly what you just said. Some of it you're like, this guy is a communist. What the fuck is? And then some of it, it's like, what the hell is it? He's a hippie liberal talking about women's rights in Afghanistan. And then other times it's like, what the hell? He's talking about cracking down on freedom of speech. Like what? So yeah, you're right. It is a really weird melding and blending of incredible, strange ideologies that are already strange, I should say, into an even weirder modge podge of it. So
right, and we have no in our gauge for it, our ability to diagnose what we're seeing happening before us is limited by our language, and so we're trying to fit these ideas into what we already understand, and it's like no. You have to expand what you understand to get there.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. I don't know. But I think what I was trying to get at was, you had mentioned how they weaponized individualism, and yeah, it is a weird thing, and you see them do it explicitly. Where Biden said something about getting the vaccination it's your duty as an American. And I'm like, how they have twisted, because that's like American exceptionalism, right? Like they have twisted that to mean you have to take this big pharma product. Like how that happened, I kind of know, but when I say I will never know, I think you know what I mean. Like it's just mind blowing how it's come from that. And I don't know. I wasn't really around. I was born in 96. So I don't have the knowledge of pre 9/11 America, but the reason I bring this up is because I was listening to a show earlier. Tim Dillon was on Rogan's show, and they were talking about Dillon was talking about how he saw a lot of parallels between 9/11 and the Patriot Act and how things are going are going now. Now I don't, like I said, I don't have that knowledge, but it is crazy because they did the same. To my knowledge of history, they did similar things in World War I, similar things in World War II. It's your American duty to do this. It's your American duty to hate the Germans. It's your American duty to do that. To hate the terrorists. It's your duty as an American to take off your shoes at the TSA. Whatever it may be. Right.
I'm surprised they haven't broken out the old Uncle Sam posters.
Oh my God!
Put a vaccine in his hand.
Oh, dude, that would be so bad. I'm surprised they haven't.
Uncle Sam wants you to be vaccinated.
Dude, they're pulling out all stops on the propaganda though, bro. It really is crazy. I mean, you've seen that video of the nurses singing in the White House or whatever the hell that was they were doing.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh God, it's so bad. It's really crazy how they because somebody had made a tweet because Biden had put out in one of the press conferences, he said the unvaccinated are going to face a winter of severe illness and death. And well, people didn't really like that, obviously. So then they turned around and did this cheery song and dance number in the White House. I think it was the White House.
Why am I just for context, I'm picturing like the Disney movie Frozen right now.
Well, it was just a bunch of people. I'm sure they weren't nurses. They were just some federal people that were dressed up in scrubs, and most of them had masks on except for two people for some reason. I guess they didn't need them. I don't know why, but they were all singing and dancing and about the vaccine and about the thing. It's really crazy how people don't look at that and say, what the fuck? What? That's not a lot of people do. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people do. But the average, CNN viewer looks at that and they're saying, "Oh, look at this. This will get to them."
Normal. That's what the nurses did the last time I was at the hospital.
Or how about, it is. I do wonder because I saw somebody else say something about how he was in the ER. I don't know why, but he was talking about how there were people who were visibly fucked up, like, you know, whether it be injuries or you got a nail in your hand from the carpenter, or from working on a house, or you got your hand half off because of a miter saw, and they're getting ignored in the ER because they prioritize coronavirus, they prioritize COVID. And I'm just, first of all, they fired a bunch of healthcare workers in a lot of states, and now they're bitching about the hospitals being overrun with COVID. I can't. I'm sorry. I keep on saying coronavirus because I hate COVID, but because COVID is,
yeah, either way.
But it's you. I don't know. There's just so much. I can't even sift through it. Like, I can't even sit here and parse out what I'm trying to say because it's so much insanity and so much bullshit.
Well, and they've stacked so much on top of us all at one time.
Yeah.
Right? So you got the whole COVID thing going on. You got this whole great reset idea going on. You have ESG scores happening. You have fucking
what was that last thing? ESG?
ESG.
What's that?
It's okay. So this is something that the banks are turning to.
Oh God.
Yeah. So like this is
here we go.
This is where I did an episode with Pete on this. This is kind of where the what do you call it that they did in China, the civil like scores or whatever.
Social credit
scores. There you go. So it's kind of that, but what they're doing is they're measuring investors like basically adherence or compliance to critical race theory through what they call ESG scores. So the E stands for environmental. So how green are your investments? The S stands for social governance, right? So the companies you're investing in, how many minorities are in CEO positions and CFO positions? And then the G stands for governance in general, right? And so how is the government like
the political campaigns they support or whatever?
Well, no. How is the government actually, how are you working in conglomeration with the government?
Oh, okay.
So it's like strong-arming fascism, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that some 401k companies are putting ESG scores on private 401k investors because as a holder of a 401k, you're actually an investor. Yeah. So now you have a score. So this goes back to like, all right, remember like January 6th, one of the ways that they were investigating who was in DC on January 6th was they were going to Bank of America and these big banks, and they were getting them to turn over people's bank records that had actually spent money in DC. So they're monitoring. And then you remember the Democrats wanted, oh, well, if you have receive over $600 in a year, then your bank has to turn over all your investments, all your spending over to the IRS so that the IRS knows. And then they lifted it to $10,000 after people got all pissed off about it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to situate the banks to where the banks are an arm of the government. Like as soon as I found out about this, I left Capital One. I went to a small credit union because I was like, fuck it. I'm not doing this shit. Like you're not going to fuck with my finances over this bullshit.
Yeah, maybe a good idea would be to get with a local bank in your city or whatever.
That's what I did. I got with a local credit union. I was like,
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor old Daryl, who's fucking, some electrician, got a 401k with his company. All of a sudden, his shit's down to 10% that it should have been because his ESG was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because he went and bought a fucking rifle. So he went and bought a 30-30 so he could go deer hunting. Shit like that. Yeah.
You don't handle, like, as far as like your 401k, you don't make every single call of what that money's invested in. So this poor dude who doesn't he's 65, he's about to retire, doesn't even know what the fuck critical race theory is. He doesn't know nothing about no green energy. He's just an electrician out in, Alabama. All of a sudden his 401k is down, way the hell down, that he's not going to be able to retire because some people made the decision to invest in a company that these banks didn't like and to put a bad ESG score on it. That's like absurd.
Yeah,
that is really
it's fucking
crazy.
nuts. Yeah, I'll send you some links on that shit, like, so you can read up more on it.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That's
yeah,
fucked up.
it's fucking nuts. I know Robbie Bernstein talks about it some on Dave Smith's show every once in a while. He'll bring it up. So I need to get Robbie on to talk about it, because he actually talks about it from more of a financial standpoint, where I'm more looking at it the social standpoint, and I'm like, wait, like you're gonna cancel people's ability to make investments and bank because of where they spend their money and the way that they fucking invest in shit. Like, how long before Bitcoin's an investment, and like suddenly anybody who buys Bitcoin is getting points shaved off of their ESG or some shit like that,
And they're already priming to they're already laying the groundwork for calling people that invest, how the alt-right took over cryptocurrency, how cryptocurrency became the flagship of the white nationalists, like that kind of shit. So yeah, they've been doing that for a long time now, the past few months that I've seen. I'm sure it's been going on longer than that, but I haven't been on Twitter but for a year. So yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's so fucking, everything goes back to this weird progressivism. What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
It's the technocracy, man. It's it's this is what Aldous Huxley wrote about in Brave New World. It's what George Orwell wrote about. It's this weird fucking technocratic state, and or like what's his name, Ray Bradbury.
Yeah,
Fahrenheit 451. It's this weird technocratic state that's like involved in your in every aspect of your life, and there's no individual. And this goes back to this whole individual thing. There's no individual escape from this. This is all about like forming tribes now. Like you don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah. It's so funny too, because I don't remember who gave me the idea for this, but it's just 1984 but gay, because everything is everything is so lame, dude. Are you familiar with the band Fear Factory?
Yes.
Okay, they wrote at least two concept albums where they talked about a dystopian technocratic future. That's what The Matrix was. Like all these cool movies and art, we just mentioned Aldous Huxley and Orwell and Bradbury and all these authors and artists and musicians and whatever that made these pieces or made their art about these technocratic futures. Those were all cool. This is just fucking lame. It's just gay. If you don't have I can get in trouble for not having a rainbow flag instead of, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make any sense. And it's just lame as hell.
I got this. All right. So I got this headset here. I always have on, like when I'm at work, and I always have like one earpiece in my ear. And I'm wearing this fucking cloth mask over my face. And I'm like, the robotic, these robotic suits of the future don't look near as cool as I thought they were going to.
Yeah. The Enviro suits is just a mask. You just look like a dopey fucking out of place nurse or something. And then, but yeah, everything is you didn't celebrate trans rights hard enough, and now you can't withdraw over $100 from your bank account. Like that's where we're going here. It's not like you're going to go to the gulag. It's not
absurd. I mean, it sounds absurd, but it's not absurd.
But it's not you're going to go to the gulag or you're going to go to the labor camp or whatever. Pick a word.
You're just not going to be able to go grocery shopping.
Because you weren't gay enough. It's so stupid.
There was that I think it was a Brave New World where the women were not allowed to
have children.
Reject. No, they weren't allowed to reject intercourse.
Oh, is that what it was? I'm confusing two things.
No. All the children were grown.
That's right. That's what it was. Okay.
Which is the beginning, but maybe it was I don't think it was 1984. I think it was Brave New World where they weren't allowed to say no because everybody was the property of each other. So
Oh, was that Brave New World?
Oh, these things all run together in my head.
I know they all do. I mean, you all mash all these things together,
but that's how it feels. Like whenever I listen to these people talk about like saying like not dating a trans woman is fucking like it's transphobic. It's like, okay, so now you can't say no because the chick has a dick. Like, what?
Women should be able to. 10 years ago, feminism, or I guess I don't know if feminism is the right word, but we'll use it because people know what I mean. But it was women can say no for any reason, which is fair. That's true. Everyone has bodily autonomy. Everyone has self-ownership. You can say no for whatever reason, to sex, to whatever. Now, feminism, you can't say no because of these reasons. So, like, what the fuck happened? Did we went in a circle in a weird horseshoe?
Well, I think it's this whole idea that everybody is the arbiter of their own truth, right? Everybody decides their own morality. Like, there's nothing objective anymore. It's like they've turned objectivity into a collectivist ideal. And it's like, no, objectivity is not a collectivist ideal. Objectivity was the thing that all of us clung on to so that we could be individuals without fucking stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah. Yeah, so we could peaceably coexist.
Exactly.
We understand where lines are. We understand you are you and I am me, and that is yours, and this is mine, and all that shit.
Yeah. Well, and this is where like Buck or Throw Bishop like kind of grab my attention, because I'm like, okay, in the world we live in today, you're not going to devolve into a voluntarist society. That's not what's going to happen. Like, there's going to be a bunch of fucking crazy lunatics that are killing people for not agreeing with them, you know? So it's like, all right, like, as much as I am anarcho-capitalist in my ideal, it's like, how do you get there from here? And at some point, you got to introduce some sort of objectivity.
Yeah, I also think I want to touch on that in a minute, because that has been a topic of discussion over the past couple of months. And I think Pete coined a great phrase where he said, living in Ancapistan in your head. A lot of people on both, like in a charitable way and in an uncharitable way, misinterpreted what I think he meant by that. And I think what he meant by that is you have to understand that. So, for example, people will get called. We had a discussion, about the police and how to deal with homeless people. Whatever. Let's just use that as an example. And that conversation, and I poorly contributed to the discourse. I fucked up and said some dumb shit, but the discourse started to devolve into you should never call the cops. And I'm like, okay, that's a weird thing to say for somebody. Like, what if your 90-year-old grandmother is got somebody breaking into her house? You're gonna tell her not to call the cops? Like, you know what I mean? So that's that kind of attitude is Ancapistan in your head. We're in this world where the cops have a monopoly on your security, and if you have to turn to them for security, it's not the best thing. It sucks, but that is what we got to deal with. And that's what I think he meant. Some people think he meant that, and some people seem to think he said it just so he could disregard all libertarian theory, which clearly, no, you don't listen to his fucking show if you think that. And it's fine if you don't listen to his show, but watch your criticism if you don't listen. Like, you have to listen to what people say, not just what they say on Twitter, if you're going to go that deep. But some other people also think that, some people hear that and say, well, that's why we should be monarchists or whatever. Some people go in the other direction with it, right? Yeah. Which is weird. But yeah, that is a thing that I see a lot of people doing is you can't do anything within the state, otherwise you're a bad person. Well, some things you cannot do without the state, like not without the state. You cannot do outside of the state.
At this point, where we're at today, like, you have to have some sort of realistic. You have to have a realistic idea of what's going on around you. You can't just be in this fantastical like society in your head, because that doesn't exist. And I kind of like, it's not really a run-in because I just kind of let it go. But like, all right, today, so Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty, right, on 5 of 6 counts. And she got sentenced to 65 years. And this guy goes, okay, is she going to be put to death? And I'm like, no, she got 65 years. Oh, well, she can still get off. I'm like, look, dude, like, don't be so cynical. Like, it's all right. Like, take the win. It's not what you wanted. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, though. Right. And like, kind of like, all right, like, I think that it could have been a better sentence. Like, there's no doubt about that. But all right, like, we got one, right? So, like, take it. Well, no, because basically she went unscathed because she's just going to sit in prison and wasn't publicly executed. All right, like, you're living in another world.
When does that ever happen ever?
Yeah, exactly. Like 99.9% of the time, these people don't get charged with a crime.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, take the win, dude. Just take the win.
What was the last public execution? The last public execution I could think of is, and I wish I could remember the dude's name, was the guy that shot the guy in the head that raped his son or whatever.
Yeah.
In the airport, or not? Was it in the airport? I don't even remember. But he was at the phone and he turned around and just blasted him in the head. That's awesome. Like, I wish that could happen to all of them, but that's just not how it works. And
that's not realistic.
And they have a monopoly on the justice system. And so that's what it is. If somebody commits a crime, you don't have your private arbitrator to turn to get your what's the word I'm always seeing, to get your what's the goddamn word? I keep on losing words. It's the same restitution. Okay. You don't have your private arbiter to get to because someone stole something of yours. You don't have someone to give you make that guy give you restitution. Your only option is to go through the law enforcement we have. Some people would choose not to do that out of principle, and I respect that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I don't think I would ever call the cops unless I had to for some insurance thing. Like, my car was broken into and I had to get it fixed and insurance will cover it. Okay, I'll call the police to file a report to get it fixed. Whatever. That's what I'll do. But if somebody doesn't want to go that way, if somebody takes the opposite opinion of me and says, well, somebody broke into my house, rather than take a shotgun and blast his face off, I'm going to hide in my room and call the cops. What am I going to tell them? No, you can't do that. Come on, man. Like fuck that.
Yeah. Well, it's like Beatrix has called the cops twice. Whenever I was over the road, she called the cops twice. And one time somebody came to our house and broke into our shed and took stuff out of our shed. I can't even remember. I think they took a chainsaw or something like that. And so I wasn't in town. I was over the road. So she called the cops, and the cops came and they looked, and they're like, okay, and took their little report. They're not going to find a chainsaw. Whatever.
Yeah, of course.
So the next time she called the cops, she had hired a guy. It was after Harvey. And it was just, the flooding had been so bad. She went with me for 2 weeks over the road, right? And my mom called a guy and had him come and mow the yard while we were gone for 2 weeks, while everything started like kind of calm down here. And then when I brought her back, I went back over the road for a month to like make up some of that money so we could do some repairs around the house. So during that month, she called that guy that my mom had called and had him come and mow the yard. Well, he got it in his head for some fucking reason that it was okay to start like texting her daily and harassing her.
Oh God.
And it ended with him sending her a dick pic.
Oh,
and
goodness.
she called the cops and gave them not only his phone number, his address, and all this stuff, and no, there was no follow-up on it, not once. So I understand like why calling the cops is a fucking nightmare, but the fact of the matter is, at some point, like you said, a 90-year-old woman, house getting broken into, what is she supposed to do? Yeah.
And another thing about it is that people take out of the people ignore or forget about, intentionally or not, is that you can get into massive trouble if you take things into your own hands. Like, that's another thing too. I mean, I don't know how it is. I know Louisiana's got castle doctrine. Texas, I'm sure, does too.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of states, especially
all you
got to
do is look up Joe Horn. you'll see exactly how Texas feels about it. Joe Horn, like this was one of the coolest fucking stories I've ever heard in my life. So these guys in the middle of the day are breaking into a house, and Joe Horn happened to be the neighbor, and he called 911, said, "Look, there are people breaking into my neighbor's house. You need to come do something about it." And they're like, "Yeah, we'll be there in like 15 minutes."
Yeah, of course.
He hung up the phone and he called back like 2 minutes later, and he said, "Hey, since it's going to take y'all 15 minutes to get here, I'm going to take care of it myself." He walked outside. He shot 3 of them. He killed 2 of them, injured 1. And the cops were there within fucking like a minute and a half. Fucking, he got charged and he spent a month in jail, but then he ended up, all charges got dismissed. So the state of Texas is pretty cool. There have even been cases where people have been let off of killing cops that invaded their house with no-knock raids.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
So
Yeah.
like the state of Texas is pretty cool about the castle doctrine. They're like, yeah, like you can't just kick a dude's door in. Like that's just not the way it works.
Yeah. Well, and what I was getting at was just if you do that in some states, not shoot somebody breaking into your neighbor's house. Like I'm sure the lines are blurry on that for probably everywhere but Texas. But if somebody breaks into your house and you're in some state that's not the most gun friendly, and you have a gun and you're supposed to not have that gun, like what, and you shoot them, you could get into serious trouble. So and if you're a father and you've got kids and you're the provider for the household and whatever, it ain't in your best interest to get hauled off to jail because for doing the right thing too. So the right thing is to take your gun and shoot the guy breaking into your house. I'm all for it. Like I of course that's what you do. That's what I would do. I mean, ideally, that's what I would hope. I hope I could do that if something like that happens, right? But if you were in a place where you're not supposed to have a handgun, like New York, for example, without some sort of permit,
I'm thinking of New Jersey
or Jersey, yeah,
they
or
have the
hollow
they
points.
have that. Well, New Jersey has that law where you must flee.
Really?
So you can't even stand your ground.
Good God.
Yeah. So like if a cop is standing there abiding by the Warren versus District of Columbia ruling that they have no jurisdiction to protect you, and you decide like, well, I'm going to stand up for myself, you go to prison. You're in the wrong. You have to flee.
And so some of these super principled libertarians, anarchists, whatever, would have you think that it's wrong for that person to say, "Hey, police officer, help me," because what the fuck am I supposed to do? If I fight back, I'm going to jail.
Right.
Like, I do what you got to do to whatever's the right situation. Do what you have to do that in that situation that you think is the right thing to do to keep yourself out of jail and to make sure the perpetrator of a crime against you gets the rap or gets hurt or killed or whatever.
I mean, could you imagine being in that situation though? Like a guy's breaking into your house and you know if you flee, your wife and children are dead.
Yeah.
Like you're going to go to life and go to prison for life because you're not going to flee. You're going to be like, no, insane. Fuck that.
I've never heard of that. That's New Jersey. You said I'll have to check out.
There's a lot of states that have that, like where they have what they call stand your ground laws in some states where you're allowed to stand your ground, but there are some states that have laws to where you have to flee and be in a position where you can't get away before you can use lethal force.
Must make a reasonable attempt to get away from an assailant before using force in self-defense. That's crazy to me. That is just absurd. Holy shit. And it says you can only use deadly force in situations where not doing so would put you or your family in imminent danger. Well, how the fuck are you supposed to know? If someone's breaking into your house, you have to assume they're putting you and your family in imminent danger. I don't care what anyone says. That's how I would go about that.
Well, hey, I'll use the police defense. He touched his waistband.
Yeah.
I feared for my life.
I saw a shiny object. Toss a kitchen knife on the ground next to him. Put some prints on his hands. Never mind. I should stop before it becomes premeditated. Well, I'm in Louisiana. I'm not in Jersey, so I don't have to worry about this. That's insane, dude. Have to make. And then another, you know what's funny too is I've seen people argue, well, if someone comes in and is trying to steal your TV and you shoot him, it's like, oh, is your TV worth his life? Yes, my TV is worth his life. Like I don't care. You know what I mean? Whatever. Yeah. If that's what you need to tell me to make me the bad guy in your mind, then fine. Then make me the bad guy. I don't care. But I'm gonna shoot someone who breaks into my house. I don't care.
Yeah, because like, was my TV the target? Like, I don't even know what his target was. He broke into my house.
Yeah, I don't know.
My door came flying in, and a guy came in with a gun. Like, now what? Like,
yeah, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Are you just here for the TV?
Just like starts throwing jewelry down the hallway. Here, take it. Just here's a box. Yeah, that's
that would be a hell of a new version of the Cats in the Cradle.
I don't even know what you're referring to. I'm sorry.
The song, the Cats.
Oh, the song. Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can have the silver spoon. You can have her diamond necklace and her
take it all.
Engagement ring too. just or what was that? Tim McGraw. Don't take the girl. Just don't.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember that song.
You can take all her jewelry. Just don't take the girl. Like, what kind of faggots are these people?
Right? Goodness. Yeah, that's something. I don't know. People that my mind's still spinning from that. You have to make a reasonable attempt to get away before using self-defense. Yeah. That's insane.
I played Barbie girl. He didn't leave, so I shot him.
I mean, I wonder how that would hold up in court. I would have to go and read about some cases, like what constitutes a reasonable attempt to get away? That seems very subjective.
Yeah.
Like, I'm slow. I'm not a fast runner. I tried, but he fucking caught me real quick. I'm just slow. Yeah. I had to, officer, or I had to, Your Honor. I don't know. I couldn't get away from him. I'm way too slow. I'm white. Look at me. What am I supposed to do? Run a triathlon against this career criminal?
It's just, yeah, like, they don't make any sense. Like, but see, places like that, there's no such thing as private property.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, the property is not yours. And this goes back to, the Constitution, eminent domain, things like that. It just, I saw this, who was it? Somebody shared an article yesterday, and that The Hill, that.
Oh God, they're the worst.
That news organization, The Hill, said it was a story that said something like, apparently the Constitution is not working, and I just responded like, progressivism is Spooner driving the speed limit. Like, it's just, what the fuck,
dude. Or how about, as a funny, there was the Build Back Better thing. Which, by the way, I remember, unless I'm misremembering, correct? Somebody
that every country in the world had a Build Back Better thing.
No, just that it was, whenever people would say that was the plan, would be called a crazy lunatic far right conspiracy theorist. Even the words "Build Back Better."
Great Reset.
Yeah,
but now it's okay. You can say it now because the New York Times has talked about it.
It's literally the name of legislation,
right?
To Build Back Better. But whenever it got shot down in the Senate 50 to 49 or 51 to 49, and Joe Manchin was the deciding vote, the one, like, the lone Democratic dissenter, and everybody was so furious, like, this is not how democracy is supposed to work. I'm like, what? It's majority rule. This is what you wanted.
Yeah, right.
How is one person gonna no, not one person. It's 51. This is your ideal right here, just not working for you. And if it would have been 50 to 49 the other way, it'd have been, this is our sacred democracy working just as we intended.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody said, wait, because one person decided they didn't because that was the argument. Because one person decided they didn't want it, then we don't get it. And it's like, yes, all the Democrats and all the Republicans agreed, and Joe Manchin overruled them somehow.
All of them, yeah.
It's like, what the fuck are you
And then
talking
I was also seeing because Manchin's district is like it's fewer people than somebody in California. I don't even know where he's from. Where do you know what state Manchin's out of?
Virginia, I think.
I thought Virginia also.
Yeah, I think it's Virginia or West Virginia.
Yeah, West Virginia. So yeah, he represents fewer people,
a smaller district. Yeah,
okay. But other people he beat, other people he voted in the opposite direction.
Yeah,
of,
but they
have fewer people than him too.
Because representatives represent a republic, right? And see, this is what these people don't understand. When you look at this whole Great Reset thing that they're talking about, and all these things that they're trying to like implement, they're talking about utilizing the representatives to be part of basically like a board of directors for the CEOs. It's like y'all, what you're advocating and complaining about just don't match up, because like they're talking about taking Nancy Pelosi and her insider trading and investing in Pfizer and making billions of dollars on you getting vaccinated. They're talking about taking her fucking crazy little wrinkled ass and fucking putting her as part of a board of directors on a fucking corporation so that the American people have say in that corporation and the way that corporation operates. Like this, it's not what you think it is, you fucking idiots.
It'll be it'll be more transparency and
it'll be much more fascism. I guarantee
more accountability. Yeah, of course. It's always like that. Yeah, it's always under the guise of accountability and this shit and that. It's like, well, I mean, really, what's happening now?
Yeah.
I mean, but it's of course capitalism's fault and everything else. That's whatever. Yeah, I hate it. I'm more clear pilled now than like I'm not really paying that much attention to news. And I'm actually as of right now, I'm on a Twitter break. I'm not coming back till probably after the new
I've
year.
noticed you haven't been on there for a while. Yeah.
I'm chilling. I mean, a lot of shit popped off on fucking libertarian Twitter, which I was like, I don't want to discuss that. I'm not trying to like talk about that right now. I'm just saying like
we can talk about it off the air. I'm not gonna talk about it on
I know if you're listening to this, I know you know what happened, but I'm like, peace, brother. I'm gonna be back in about a week and a half when this blows over, inevitably. And they're now the next thing. When I come back, they're probably gonna be talking about like, I don't know what's the cycle. It's abortion, and then it's borders, and then it's homeless. Like what they're gonna be talking about.
And then we have the midterms next year too. So I almost expect lockdowns to come back.
Oh shit! I wonder if they're gonna try to do more. I think that the midterms are going to be horrible for the Democrats.
Absolutely. That's
I
the
think
way
they
it's
will.
looking.
And I mean, like, I know voting. I get it. I understand people that are going to trash me for these opinions and for even bringing this up. But like the fact of the matter is, like, some of this shit does matter. I mean, look at California versus look at Florida. I mean,
Democrats are obviously more tyrannical than Republicans.
Now, yeah.
At this moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're dealing with. Like, I'm not saying it's always been that way, and I'm not saying it's always going to be that way. But at this very fucking moment, what we're dealing with is a situation where Democrats are much more tyrannical. And we're talking about it on a social scale. We're not just talking about their politicians. We're talking about their voters. We're talking about the people that are advocating for the Democrat Party, right? They're much more tyrannical. I don't know any Republican right now that wants to enslave anybody or lock them up in their homes.
Yeah.
And I can't say the same thing for Democrats.
I'm sure there are. I shouldn't say there are none, because if you talk in extremes and
I'm saying I don't know any.
No, I'm not. No, I'm just saying that to my point is that I don't want to say all of them or none of them, but I know for a fact that the pendulum is swinging in a direction where people who are expressing discontent for progressivism are going to be labeled as terrorists by their fucking, local governments. Like that,
Yes.
we're going in that direction. It is, and it's happening now. I mean, so that's not coming from Republicans. It's coming from, I don't like the term woke. I don't like the term cancel culture. I really don't like a lot of the terms that are being used for these things as shorthands, but it's coming from these progressive people who are trying to implement their worldview onto everybody else, which is what the progressive mantra is. It's do what I say. I know what's best for you. And if you don't do it, there'll be consequences. That's kind of what you can boil it down to in one sentence. But that's what it is. It's not, I'm sure, again, to fucking disclaimer, I'm sure there are plenty of Republicans and even people that aren't Republicans, people that are more farther to the right, and some people who are not quite as far right as some of the Republicans, who would like to see their enemies crushed or whatever. I get that. I understand. And I understand the sentiment too. So I sympathize with them, but I don't necessarily agree with them. But right now, what I'm seeing is people being held in for like it's Gitmo, like they're terrorists from suspected of 9/11 attacks for January 6th stuff, which is coming up in about a week, the anniversary.
Oh yeah. I mean, there is solitary confinement for trespassing charges,
right?
Which is
from a year ago, almost a year ago now.
Yeah.
So like that's what we're talking about. We're kind of at this point where, and that's not Republican. There are some. I don't know if you can call them rhinos or not. Maybe the good ones are rhinos because the Republicans have always kind of sucked for the last 50 years. Whatever. Pick a word, whatever makes you feel better about what I'm saying. I made
that meme. You remind me of that meme I made with Toe Bishop. It is like I just have Toe Bishop standing there, and it's like you call it the party of Lincoln, I call it the party of Ron Paul. We are not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, Ron Paul was a rhino. I mean, he was, because all the Republicans in his day were supporting the war on terror.
Yeah, exactly.
So like he was the one out of step with the party. Now I know whenever people say rhino, what they mean is a Republican.
Neocon.
Neocon,
like the neocons. Yeah,
some fucking dummy progressive type or whatever, like Bill Kristol style person. But I'm just being autistic right now. But to the point, to my point earlier was that it's the pendulum is swinging in that direction, and that's where we're at right now. And I know I'm not a person that thinks that voting is. I've never voted, and I don't know if I ever will. But I would have loved a better governor in this state than John Bel Edwards. I don't know who was. I think it might have been Jeff Landry, but Jeff Landry's their attorney general, which actually helped Louisiana out as far as vaccine mandates goes. So who is in office does matter. It's not like it's as simple as voting is meaningless because all the politicians do the same thing. No, they really don't. I don't know. It's a weird argument to have because it's some people get stuck in that black and white, but at the end of the day, you could look at the various states and how they're governed and say, okay, clearly people are voting with their feet. They're moving to Florida. They're moving to Texas, away from California and away from New York. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think voting matters more on a local level. And
absolutely.
People have gotten way too distracted with national politics.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys I just had on the show the other day was he's challenging a Republican incumbent. He's a Republican, but he's challenging a Republican incumbent in Bryan College Station area. And it's like, cool, good, hold these people accountable. Even if you lose, put some fire to them. Make them think about what they're supporting and what they're doing, And
the potential for them to lose votes is always something that can light a fire into their ass, right?
Right. Yeah. Like Don Huffines and, some of these guys that are challenging Greg Abbott. Good. Make the Republican primary interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like do something that makes it interesting. Because we need, especially like a Don Huffines, who's more of a Ron Paul guy. Right? Like this is a friend of Tho Bishop's. They're good buddies. So it's like, okay, yeah, That's a Republican I can actually like at least have something in common with. He understands Rothbard. He understands Mises. You know, like, okay, I can sit down and have a conversation with this guy. You know, maybe he's not perfect on the war on drugs, you know, or perfect on this aspect or that aspect, but I agree with him on 90%. You know, like, that's better than what I got right now. You
Yeah.
know, so it's like, all right, like, why wouldn't I consider it? Why
You know,
wouldn't I consider registering to vote in the primary, to put some pressure on these guys and say, look, you're going in the wrong direction, you know,
Mhm.
because Michael Malice is, you know, saying conservatism is progressivism moving the speed limit. There's actually a deeper meaning there. Whatever the progressives are agreeing to today, the conservatives will agree to in 5 years
Yeah, of
and will
course.
view as normal, right? And so it's like, what is a conservative today? Is it somebody that, you know, they think that the Patriot Act is perfectly normal. They think that the New Deal is perfectly normal. They don't want to challenge any of these things. And so it's like, no, if you want to challenge these things, then maybe you need to find candidates that are willing to put these people's feet to the fire locally to actually second guess these things, because they're not doing it on their own.
Yeah, and by and large, it it wasn't anything federal that affected people over the course of 2020. It was all at the highest level. There was the governors
Mm,
implementing, saying, "Okay, you guys got." It wasn't a federal mandate that came down and said we have to shut everything down. I'm sure there were some, because I know people that would hear this. You're wrong because this. Okay, I understand. I'm sure there were some people that were affected by some federal thing that happened. I know that it wasn't as simple as only thing that happened was states did whatever. I get it, but by and large, what affected people's lives the most was that it was it was states implementing shutdowns,
yeah.
states saying this is an essential business, this is not, you know, and you can look at the proof
Greg
is in the
Abbott
pudding.
Greg Abbott put checkpoints at the Louisiana border.
Yeah, there was when we went to go to, I don't remember if we were going to Florida or coming home to Louisiana for something. This is whenever we were still living in Georgia. But whenever we got through the Florida border, there were people there asking where we came from. And this was early on. This was in early 2020, whenever it was maybe March or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But it was because if you were coming from some state that was getting hit pretty hard, like New York at the time, they wanted to make sure you weren't coming from one of those places, so they would turn you away. I'm guessing that's not what happened to us because we were coming from Georgia, which was okay, I guess, in their book. But yeah, it's all about who was at your state level, and even lower than that, your local level, because I'm sure, I don't know how much, I think local politics, the lower the level is, the more intertwined the politics are with the culture of the area. I mean, I think that's kind of goes without saying,
Right.
because if you got a county it's full of people that are leave me alone types, it doesn't matter. I think that they're not going to have somebody on their city council and even if they do have someone on the city council that's going to implement some sort of mask mandate for this restaurants or whatever it may be, the chances are they're not going to listen to it anyway. But I think it's a better chance that they're not going to have something like that in the first place. And it's the higher level governments go, the more disconnected it gets from the culture at large.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can see that with the example I like to say, the example I like to kind of think up in my head, and when I talk to people about politics and how they're disconnected, is you can't ask I don't think there's a single person you could ask that would say, if you ask them, is the government doing what you think they should be doing? I don't think a single person would say yes to that question, like in the whole country. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that those numbers will get higher as you go lower. You could ask
Right.
people in Florida, is DeSantis doing a good job? Is he doing what you think? Do you approve of what he's doing? Like, yes. Now, I'm not talking about a general approval rating. I mean, I'm saying in terms of being on the same page as these people and on the same page as the federal government. The
Right.
lower you go, the higher chances people are going to be on the same page as their governments. The lower the level goes. So I don't know,
Well,
man.
and the more your voice matters, because there's less
Yeah.
people that you're yelling against, right? So it's you make more of a difference. I mean, there were weird things that were going on, like in 2020, and it was only for like maybe 3 weeks. They had those checkpoints up at the border of Louisiana and Texas, but they had put the state troopers out there taking people's temperatures and shit like that. And it's like, what the fuck are y'all doing? Like, this is weird, you know?
Yeah, and if you know your local sheriff, and if the sheriff is somebody who's good, because sheriffs are most places sheriffs are elected in most counties in Louisiana, in parishes.
Mhm.
Most sheriffs are elected. So if you've got a sheriff who's good with the community, spare me your ranting about cops, Madam Anarchist. Like, I get it. Trust me. Voltairine declare, I know. But if you got, because I don't think he's running for some sort of city council, but Buck Johnson, if you got a guy like that, and he's a firefighter, he knows his community, he's trusted by his community and all this stuff, that makes it a lot easier to deal with these kind of things. Because if you have some OSHA dipshit coming into your business to try to lock up the door, maybe you can call the local sheriff to give him the boot. Like, hey, you can't, no, get the fuck out of my county, bro. What are you doing here trying to tell Walmart or trying to tell Joe's grocery store to shut down because they're not vaccinating their employees? Get the fuck out of here. I think that the chances of that are infinitely higher if you've got a, if you've got a good community more than anything. And I think
Right.
the local politics, it's inescapable. The local politics is part of the community for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like where I live. I live in between two towns, and the town closest to me, they don't even have a city police department. It's it's like 2,000 people. They don't have their city hall I've never seen city hall open there. I know where it's at. It's right across from Market Basket, but I've never seen it open. You know? And it's like, all right, like that's cool with me. You know, and we get county sheriffs going through there, and every once in a while, state troopers. But really, you don't get jacked with around here. There's not enough. We're all spread out and doing our own thing, and nobody cares to be on top of anybody else or in anybody else's business. I mean, you have the Karens, and unfortunately, the Karens around here, most of them are white conservative women that want to shut down these damn game centers that people like to go into and pretend like they're gambling, and because they think that's uh, if you have a gaming a gaming house, then suddenly meth appears. And it's like, no. Meth appeared because y'all are a bunch of fucking rednecks, not because there's a game house there. But
because everybody's bored.
Yeah.
They can't have gaming houses because of people like you, woman.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you get things like that, and you're just kind of like, all right. And I've tried talking to them about the economics of it, and how it works economically, and that it's a supply and demand issue, and that it's not a crime issue, and they don't want to hear it. They don't care, and it's like, all right, whatever. It's just, I'll go on about my business. It's not like I spent any time there. It's like, I just think it's ridiculous to send the SWAT teams into these places for what you think might be happening. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, all right. So, but yeah, you ready to call it quits here?
Sure, man.
Yeah, we'll chat off the air. I'm sure we got a couple of things to talk about
Oh,
nobody
goodness.
else needs to hear about.
Yep. To say the least.
But yeah, give all your plugs, man. I don't know what you're doing nowadays. You haven't been on your podcast much, so
Yeah, I'm
what's
just
going on?
doing I'm just doing Slurp Gang with the boys. So you can Slurp Gang. There's a Twitter account, Slurp Gang Pod, and my account is Nick D Ashley. That's my @ on Twitter now. I changed it from my previous one, so that's how you can find me.
Aren't you the Christmas enjoyer now?
Yeah, Nick Ashley Christmas Enjoyer.
Yeah.
I need to change that to some New Year's thing, but I'm not on Twitter at the moment. So
New Year's drunk.
New Year's drunk, man, it could be one. Some champagne shit.
Nick Ashley, the ball has dropped.
Ball watcher.
All right. Yeah, everybody follow Nick. He's hilarious on Twitter. And I haven't heard Slurp Gang since you've been on there. So, God, I'm so bad about listening to other podcasts. So I got to
Me
get
too.
better.
I haven't in a while.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, we're gonna
Thank you, Tommy.
If you're gonna play scam, pick and choose, well, it's a game that was made for you to lose. It doesn't really matter how many times, it's the same old worn out stories, same old lines. They're all pointing dirty fingers in hypocrisy, bragging on their feats of mediocrity again. Never really making any kind of change, but they keep on getting re-elected, and I find that strange. That's why I say fuck them, don't feed them, cause we don't even need them. I never celebrate the tyrants that have taken our freedoms. Yeah, I said fuck them, don't feed them, cause we don't even need them. I never celebrate the tyrants that have taken our freedoms. What's it gonna take for you to see that we're living in a rigged democracy? People stand in line for the things that they've been choosing, paying no attention to the rights they keep on losing. But they all gather in the rallies and they chant their names, on goddamn well that it's all gonna be the same. Just 4 more years of war and taxes, 4 more years of them grinding down their axes. And that's why I say fuck them, don't feed them, cause we don't even need them. I never celebrate the tyrants that have taken our freedoms. Yeah, fuck them, don't feed them, cause we don't even need them. I never celebrate the tyrants that have taken